or maybe the questions. First of all, hi, Yannick van Jonker. Java developer. 11 years. Mostly do front-end projects at my company Access. The whole web. Table contents, basic HTML, basic CSS. Then boxes and layouts. It's more how can we combine it to make layouts, and then some further learning. Okay, let's go with the basics. Okay, what is a website? A website is multiple circuits in 3 different languages. JavaScript. In short, HTML is everything structure and content. CSS presentation, visualization, look and feel, and then JavaScript is everything from present line to go to use certain things. Yeah, but due to the time of this workshop, and it's also present in the title of the workshop, we're going to focus on the HTML, CSS. HTML, hypertext markup language. It's not a programming language. There's some on the internet. It says it's actually a programming language, but the big boss on the internet says it's a markup language. It tells the web browsers how to post picture, the web pages. It can be very simple, it can be very complicated. And consists of a series of elements. Next slide can put as many elements in the HTML file as you want. They act differently, Actually, this is a bit of a terminology. Consists of a tag. Maybe a div. Or a p tag. Then you have the content. This everything between the text is content, and this will be displayed on the web page itself. So if you put there some text, this will be visible if you open the web page. And then attributes where you can set extra data. This will be all here in the next few slides. Listing elements, you can put different elements in each other. This way you get a structure, and this way you'll create a structured web page. We start with the first demo. I'm going to use Visual Studio if you want to follow along. You can also download this online for the students.
Hey, hello. Can you hear me?
There's a question online.
Yeah, there's a question online, and I was wondering if perhaps there is a way to improve a little bit the audio.
Can you hold on, please? If there is a question.
Okay, future. The mouse is
difficult on this one. Yes, I trust the author because I am the author. Come on. Yes, okay. HTML file.
Maybe make the Yannick, you can make your theme light.
Yeah.
Settings.
Okay, Teams. Oh.
I think on the setting and then
Here.
light. Yeah.
This will be more readable for most people. Yeah.
Mouse. Okay. Similar as just a regular HTML.
Put the basics.
Now. Yeah. This is
Necessary because
in the years 10 years ago there were some we had to set other rules. This tells the browser how to tells the browser a certain set of rules. Yeah. So you need to know it. You have to set this because otherwise some browsers will be will do some funky things. Then we have the HTML tag. This element represents everything from the page.
Can you zoom it in a little bit? I see it fine. I see it here, but here in the screen, it's very blurry. I don't know why. I don't think the ones online can see.
Is it better?
Yeah, I think that helps. I don't know why.
It's still blurry.
Yeah. No, I see it fine, but yeah, it's better now, definitely. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, text elements. Yeah, text.
Okay. The audio is really bad. They're saying online.
Yeah. I can turn it up, but that's the only thing.
I'll refresh this. This will change to setting up to websites. Then websites. Not recorded every typo everyone sees. Okay. Now we're going to do our first content. The most common one is P for paragraph. Actually, this is just regular text. Hello from control 9, which is where we are right now. If you save this, then we refresh this, this will appear on the web page. I'm gonna make this one a bit smaller. Can you see a bit more? Okay. Then we have headings, which are also a great part of the HTML image. You have H1. This is the main heading. You see this on the number 1. Then you have header 2. You see by the size of the font here that heading is a bigger importance than heading 2. So you can go on to heading 3. all the way to having 6, which is the smallest one. We can try H7, but this will do nothing. It's just regular text. Okay. Let's say need some more text. Generate some text. Get some contents. Where is it? Generates. This is a paragraph. Okay. Okay, then we have some characters like strong, etc. This will make the font turn in bold. Strong. Yeah. Page is always setting to Latin, or if it isn't Latin, you can fix this by just setting on the HTML tag lang attribute. I'll put this one to English. Then the browser knows it's an English website, so they won't ask you to translate that's something Chrome does. So we put something here in strong, between strong tags. We do the Audi. How do you, I don't know how to do it. You see it's here, it's in yeah, strong. You can also use B tags for this, but this is not recommended anymore because yeah, it's for the people who are using screen readers, like blind people. They also serve the web. Strong represents something more of a what is a stronger importance in the text. You want to focus on that one. Then you have AM tags. Before we had from emphasize, we had bold text. Now this one will make your text italic. Yeah, here. Same here, you have AM from emphasize of the I tag. From italic, also here the AM tag represents something more where you want to set focus on for the screen readers, screen reader issues. I'm gonna do something more on this. I'm going to make more of a structure here. You see, it's already starting to look like a Word page from Office 98. Even the same font. Then another great of widely used HTML elements are lists. This one is the first one where you actually have to list elements. So you have an UL from unordered list. Yeah. And then you have OL from ordered list. The difference between the two, we'll see in a minute. Then you have a list item. List item 1. LE. list item 2. This 2 I'm going to copy for. So we have here an unordered list with 2 list items. And here we have ordered list with 2 list items. Difference between the two. Unordered lists are just dots or small rounds. Ordered lists will naturally do a numbering. If you want to make more of a how do you say? Yeah, you want to set a sub list. You just do UL back into a LE item and then back sub item from item 2. You can mix and match these. I'll show you here. The button is broken. So LE, UL, LE, mix subtype, sub item, sorry, of item 2. So you can mix and match those. Yeah, maybe it's a good first time for the students to create a page of their own, like this. Try make an about you page. Try to use the different headings on the correct way. Like you would type a letter on a office, for example. And then I will go. I'll give you 5 minutes for this. Maybe is that okay? Is that okay? And then we go continue with some other tags as well. Yes. No, I can't. No, I've turned the volume because you just can go to Visual Studio.
Everyone is registered.
Is it clear for? Yeah, I can see the chat for.
You have to download.
Asking, you wanted you to be on mute.
Yes. Excuse me, once we are in the Visual Studio, we have to download it?
What? Yeah, Notepad, yeah. Visual Studio Code is handy because it's has autocomplete features. If you have it, you can use it, yeah, right? But it's free to download, actually.
So which version should we download, like for professionals, community, and?
Zach, are you saying something?
Yes. I was asking about what kind of version do we have to download, because there are 3 options.
8, yeah. Okay. If it's okay, I'll continue for the people at home. I can't hear anything, so. Yeah, just a simple page. As you can see here, just my name, some guy just teaching, etc. Okay. Now we go back to our index page. I've mentioned index is always, if you host a website, index is the page that will automatically come up. It's actually your home page. But if you set it on a hosting, till no index is the starting point. Okay. As you see, I have 2 pages. Yeah, if you're on a website, often, yeah, the thing you do the most is clicking around to other web pages. So that's why we're gonna create an anchor tag, which will bring us to our other page. The anchor tag. You can do this by H from anchor. Go to about. This is actually the title you will see on the page because it's between the 2 tags. Oh, sorry, in this page. I think I have to save. Go to about. The href is actually the attributes we have to fill in, which couples this page to our other page. In this case, it will be about.html. As you see, we hover over it. Normally, there should be something wrong. Oh. This one. Like so. If you press on the previous link, if you press this, you go to my other page. I'll now make a home, return to home on this one. Index.html. Go to home page. And go back. You can also use this for going to external web pages. Back to my index. H. When you go to an external web page, you have to set HTTPS. It's actually the one. Take this one, for example. And you are going to this website. Yeah, also email is in the anchor tag. Everything related, if you click on it, this will do an action. If you want to send email, mail to, I'll do my website from my email address from work. When you do the mail to tag, it will automatically open your mail client to send emails. Okay. And the last one before we go to CSS is the image tag. I need to download an image first. This is here you can download royalty-free photos, just so you can use in your projects. Maybe this one. Yeah. Download. I'm going to create here new folder images. No. Use an easier name because this is hard to train. Yeah, it's actually a more railroad instead of train, but okay. The image. For an image, you have to use the image tab. Quite obvious in this one. Image. And here the source is actually the link to your image. Let's say here, images/train.jpg, which actually here the folder structure images, and then train. And alt, this is often forgotten, but this is also for when the image won't load. You see this text, picture of environment. And if we, yeah, it's quite a big picture. How are you going to set the heights to be different pixels? So, it's smaller. Yeah, also this alt is also for the people who use a screen reader. Yeah, blind people can see the image, but if they use a screen reader, they will say the alt, yeah, the text after the alt tag. You have to actually describe what's in the picture, so they'll know also. Okay, are there any questions for now? What? This, yeah. Best way to do is just you've created a map with the HTML files. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. No, the easiest way is actually new window. Because if you have the window open, we just can the folder. Yeah, no. So Are there any other questions already in the chat? Okay. Well, then we'll continue.
Is there any question online?
Okay, then I'll go forward.
I don't see a question.
Okay.
So I have a doubt that you can show again how you bring the image from what web page.
Can you show us in the how you bring them to the image? Download, you mean? How to download the image?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, how? Yeah, I mean, how you bring? You brought the image, but I don't see in the code the link.
Okay.
It's already saved in the computer?
Yes, already been saved under images folder. The name is strain.
Okay.
Yeah. He just downloaded it and saved it there. And then he called it inside the HTML file.
Okay. And could you show me the web page?
Oh.
Because the web page you say that is like a free images, mostly in the internet, they are full of copyrights.
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
The Unsplash here.
Yeah, you can use any image that if they're copyright protected, and this will turn on YouTube. It's hopefully it's safe for this.
Okay.
Okay, now I'll go further if that's okay.
I understand now, but I don't know how to show my Explorer, my other things.
Okay. Are you helping?
Yeah, I will. Okay. No. No. Yeah.
Can I continue or okay? Okay, bit of a small summary document structure. Like I said, yeah, we have the HTML tags, the body, the head, and the different elements, p tag. Yeah, it's yeah, visual HTML elements aren't useful on their own. You want to combine them for creating a whole page. This is the basic setup, as I mentioned: the doc type, HTML heads, the body, then the carsets, which is necessary, and then we'll go to CSS. Yeah, it's really a lot for the first time who does this, but lots of practice. And I'll at the end of the workshop, I'll give a few links where you can. It's all written down, so you can explore it on your own pace, etc. Okay. CSS. Like I said before, the look and feel, the styling of the page. Yeah. The abbreviation cascading style sheets. Yeah, cascading, that will be covered somewhat later. And yeah, a CSS file consists of a series of rules. A CSS rule exists of a selector, property, and a value. The combination of a property and a value is a declaration. Just when I mention these things, you'll know what I'm talking about. Yeah, maybe I'll go back to my pages here. To my website. For example, I want this heading to be red. I can do this different ways. You can use the style attribute on each, then I can set the color to red. And I have a red heading. And I'll go, for example, the elite tags. I want them to be bold. With CSS, you can do this by font weight. Set to bold. Okay. As you can see, I want all my LE items to be bold. This is a bit difficult. As you see, I have to copy this rule to every LE item on my page. That won't work. So, for example, there's a solution for that. Because if I want a font weight back small, less bold, I have to change it everywhere. So this is not easy to do. Therefore, we can use in the head the style tag. There we can set a rule. The selector, in this case, will be the li from list item. This is an element selector. If you say this, you will match every item on the document. This one is, maybe I'll show. As you can see, these are all bold. Except the last two. What?
Can you please show this part again?
Yes, okay, yeah. So if I said before, I have now set style text font weight bold on the first 3 LE items. So you can see, yeah, this one, that's inheritance. This will be later. I'm gonna remove this one. I've set the font weight on every LE item. I forgot one on purpose. So you can see I create inconsistencies. And if I want them to be less bold, then therefore we have the LE. This will select all the list items on the page. And if I set here font weight to bold, I'll remove the inline styles and the LEs. I'm going to set this. As you can see, they're not bold anymore. But if I set this one font weight bold, all my list items will be bold. This is much easier because if I want them actually not bold but blue, I can set the color to blue. Yes. You see, this one is a somewhat better solution. I'm going to style, for example, heading 2. It's the H2 tag. I'm going to set this one a line below. So the font text definition. Underline. we have a line below our heading. Now, this is already better, but you can see, if I go to this page, my list is not blue. My H2 is not underlined, even if I refresh the page. So, therefore, we use CSS files. It's an external file. Style from CSS. Now I'm going to copy all of this between the tags. I'll remove this one. And set it here. Save this. You see all my styling is gone. No, this one is an internal inline, so I'm going to remove this one. And set also here. Now, as you can see, the styles the rules set in the styles CSS are not applied to this page because we are not, this page is not linked yet. So, I'm going to do here link, style sheet, and then just like the anchor page below, we're going to set style CSS, which is a reference to this file. If we then refresh, everything is blue, at least the list items and our headings are with style differently. So, like on the other page, you can also do the link. Style CSS. Voila. Now, if we change something in style CSS, this will automatically apply to all the pages where this reference to this file. Okay. Maybe the next one are links. Go to home page. All these different links here. I'm going to style them as well. When you're on a web page and you go with your mouse over the links, you'll notice they'll change. Therefore, you can use a pseudo selector. So let's say here, the links color hot pink, a favorite color on the web. As you can see, they're now pink. I'm going to remove the line below, text separation none. As you see, the only difference we see is that it will turn to a pointer instead of a regular mouse. This is a default behavior on the A tag. But if we want to say hover, this will here saying if we hover with our mouse over an H tag, then we must apply this style text decoration, and then we do the buttons maybe. If you maybe something wrong. Okay. As you can see, if we hover it, they do some different styling. by this rule in the hover. Is this clear for people? Yeah, it's just really basic, I know. You can do a lot. This is another font family, for example. By default, it's Times New Roman. As you can see here, now it's different font size. You can set it bigger, smaller. Mostly using things like this. Okay, so the inline, internal, and external CSS, like scopes to apply to elements. Inline, that was the style attribute we did in the beginning. I hope this was clear from the example. It was actually to avoid as much as possible. Because if you have to change something, you should do it everywhere. If you forgot one, you basically, you have to search everywhere. This was a small page, so it's easy to find, but a normal web page is about, can go to thousands of lines of code. And if you then have to find something, it's really hard to do. Internal. Between the style tags and the head. In theory, it's much faster than the external file, but you have to copy paste it on every page you have, and you can get quite quite big pages, which will take longer to load. For the more advanced students here, above the default principle, with your page rules and everything you see on when you open a page can be in the style text, which will load a bit faster. Then you have the external files linked with the link tag. It's the preferred one. You can reuse it on every other pages. Separation of the content and the markup. If you want to change your CSS later on, you have to only change the CSS file in theory. And you can use multiple files for different purposes. You can make a separate CSS file for example, for printing. If you want to print, you can set everything in black because it's much better for the environment instead of all in color. Then the basic selectors, as I mentioned, element selector. Just in this case, a paragraph tag. I'm gonna go now back to my example. For example, I just want the first list item to have a different color. If I set the LE, this will apply to every list item. So that's not what we want. So we can actually do set a class. I'm going to call this alternative list item. And I go back to my style in CSS. You can set it here. The difference between an element selector and a class selector, based on the class, is the dot in front of the selector. This way I'll know it's a class. I'm going to set here a background color of another favorite of mine, lime. And you see this list item will be green, and only this one. Great advantage of class files is that you can use them on actually every item. If I say on this p tag, I want class alternative. Yeah, maybe a bad example for the name of the class, because this is actually a list item. So I'll do it like this: alternative backgrounds. I'm gonna go back to my CSS. This alternative backgrounds. You'll notice p tag is also having a green background color. Regarding the element we have, that's the class. Class selectors. And then you have the ID selector. Select the element with a given ID. An ID is something you have to use. You can use only once in a page. So let's say ID is here, heading 2. I can't set the ID on another H2, which isn't in the H2. If I set ID, an ID here again, if I use some more advanced, normally this should give a warning. No. Okay. ID is a unique identifier for some elements on the page. You can do styling on them, like. Then you have to use the trekje. How do you say it in English? Yeah, hashtag, of course. Hashtag heading 2. And you can also set, I don't know, so many choices. Make it white. And you can see matches this one. Yeah, as you see later, this is not a recommended way, but it is possible. Then the store classes, as I mentioned before, select an element in a certain state of context. Yeah. In this case, the hover state. When you go with your mouse over the element, this will turn the background color to red. This is a different or an alternative way to write colors, which is more frequently used because you have much more choice. Then you have focus, for example, the input tag. We're not going to cover that one today, but actually this is where the user can input some text, for example, in the search bar. When you do focus, you can set the background color or the border. Selector combinators. This is also a great part of CSS. For example, this one, this is our HTML. And we only want to select the p tags below the example class. So you can use example P. This is a combination from a class selector and element selector. You can combine them, and they will narrow it down. As you can see, example. So switching to example, and then the P tags which are below or in the div with example. You have the P tag here, and you have a P tag here. We also have a P tag here, but this one is under other, so it won't match. I don't know if it's visible very well, but these ones are now less visible. As you can see, the P tag with text here are targeted. Then you have a direct descendant combinator. Actually, it's the same, but with the use of this arrow, you only target direct descendants. Like here, we have an example, P and P, but only the first one will be targeted because this one is directly under the example. This one won't be targeted because it has another element above. Okay. Was this clear for everyone? Yeah. Yeah, I have to go a bit faster because it's almost 12 o'clock. Some CSS concepts. Yeah, these are actually the fundamentals of CSS. Cascade. I teased it earlier. Cascade. What does this mean? Actually, you can set a set of rules targeting certain elements, like here. But it will read the file always from top to bottom. So if I set a P tag with the background of this one is red, and if I set background a line below, they will set the P tag to green. And if later somewhere below I set again another background on the P tag, it will set to blue, RGB. Yeah, which allows styles to be added or overridden. Yeah, it's by default you use this because every browser element has its own default styles. You notice this when on the page you saw this one are on one line. On the headings, there's some spacing below, and your job as CSS developer is actually to override all these things to make the layout. So yeah, here, this one wins. Source order, yeah, like I mentioned before, you can have multiple external CSS files. The one which is later in the header, this will win. Specificity, hard word for actually something very easy. When you do your selectors, you can use different things. So you can use element selectors, you can use the class selectors, the IDs, and yeah, the browser gives some priority to the different selectors. An element selector is the less prioritized. How do I say? If there, for example, if you set the P tag with a background color red at the bottom of the CSS file, and above there is a class selector which targets the same element, the class selector will win. Even like mentioned before in the cascade, the element selector is at the bottom. Class selector will win. I don't know if I can show it. Oh, that's great. Speaker notes. Where are they? Copy link. Yeah, this is all specificity calculator. Set a class would get a score of 101. If I just use p tag, this will get a score of 001. This one is a lower score, so this one will probably lose. Then you can use style attributes. Another reason not to use it. Yeah, important rule. Don't use it. So this in my slides because many people use it, and it's also an internet meme. But try not to use it. It's a bad practice. And the best practice here is actually use class selectors. Then you can style different elements the same way, and it's not as universal as the element selectors, which are quite limited. About this, if you use two classes, you get a higher score. So this is also narrowing it more down. Lesson inheritance, yeah. As you've seen before, like in the list item, I set bold. I set the font weight to bold on the first item, and the item below followed. This has to do with inheritance. Some properties, CSS properties, are inherited from the parent. There's not actually a rule which says that one and that one doesn't. It's mostly common sense. If I set font size on the HTML tag, yeah, it's normally that every font below has the same font size. But borders or backgrounds, they're not. Because yeah, if I set a border around every element, then you'll have some inception going on. Border and border and border and border and border. That's not what we want. Okay, I still have half an hour, so I'll go do my best to create actually a website. Maybe this will go a bit fast for some. But try to keep up. Yeah, and then because yeah, if you do a workshop and the only thing you did was this, it's not very exciting. So yeah, are there any questions now? Yeah.
Any questions online until now? Right.
No? Yeah, okay, then I'll continue. Yeah. First, some things. So, correct. Block versus inline elements. As you've seen before, yeah, some elements take the whole space. As you can see here, the heading, there's nothing behind it. This is the text and the strong elements. This will naturally flow with the text. This is the difference between block and inline elements. So block elements appear on a new line, mostly used for structural elements. And yeah, inline elements are contained within block elements. They cause no new line. It's mostly text. That's why, for example, the links and the images are in one line. This is because they're all inline elements. The p tag is a block element, the heading, and also the list items. So you can see they're all on different line. So these are block elements. It's a bit I need to know. Right here. This is an example. EM is an inline, so they'll just follow each other like text would do. And the p tags, they're all below each other because they're block elements. Semantic HTML. Why is this important? These are also elements, but they're actually they don't do anything visually. This is more the markup. For screen readers, it's quite handy to know where they are. Like in the header, it's probably the area where they will find the main navigation for the people who use it. The footer, yeah, it's below the website. Navigation, the main is where you can find everything. Actually, this is what you call semantic powered, which is important for the for screen readers, etc., and for the browser. The box model, yeah. If you create a box, mostly this is a div. Yeah, the width and height is actually the content. If you don't set, yeah. If you are building a web page, you want to create some white space because everything will yeah, will attach to each other. It's hard to read. That's why there is this box model where you can create some padding, border, and a margin. How do we see this? When you created some yeah, a div tag and you set some text in it, you set the width and the height, padding, and the border. It's yeah, this one makes maybe a bit clearer. The content and the padding, that's actually you. Yeah, the border here is a silhouette of the outline, and then the margin, it actually has nothing to do with the content, but it's yeah, your personal space be around you. Says in times of COVID, 2 meters margin is recommended. Yeah, this is why I'm telling this because when you set fixed widths to some elements, yeah, a few years ago you actually had to calculate everything. Now it's much easier to do if you set the box side, but that will be later. Yeah, block inline set before. Inline block is actually something in between. Flex and grid, that was a workshop I gave 2 weeks ago. I will touch this very briefly today because yeah, modern solutions in modern times. And then display model. Yeah, here the box sizing. This will make it a bit clearer. Let's go to this page. Like this. This is a default. If I set the width of the content box to 100%, it will take actually the width of my parent container. If I then set the border and a padding, you'll notice my child container will flow out of the parent container. This is not what we expected actually to do. That's why we set the border box. This will calculate the width 100%, including border and padding. And then we'll have nice, the child container nicely containing, parent container nicely containing the child container. You see this example a lot. If you go search on the internet and you find some memes, CSS is awesome, where the awesome is going out of the box. Actually has to do with this one. Yeah, like I said, calculated with the border box is border plus padding plus width of content and the height. Oh, border typos. I'll go to the demo. Yesterday I prepared the website. Showed here. We're gonna go and try to make this one as well in the remaining minutes. Everyone is ready for it. Okay, let's go. I'm just going to use my previous index page. I'm going to remove everything. And the styles also. Okay, like I mentioned before, all elements have default styling. When you are creating or styling a layout in a page, sometimes these default stylings give problems. That's why they've created some smart guys invented the HTML reset style sheet. This will set everything to a certain baseline. In the early days, they had different browsers, they had different default styling. So they've created the reset, which sets all defaults the same for every browser. Let's search for, because I had a more modern one. Okay. So I'm going to create just the reset CSS. This one I just copied from my example. You can find it if you search for HTML resets, and then the modern one. Where is it? This one is the old one. It's not as good. The question was, what does the reset CSS do? Yeah, actually, it sets everything to a certain baseline for every browser. Like all the headings, they have a default margin. List items have a default margin. Actually, we're setting this one to 0. So we won't have unwanted behavior from those elements in the default. This is a this is a universal tag. This means every element on the page this will apply to. Box sizing, like my slides before. To set this to border box, also here, that you don't have weird styling of weird issues with setting the widths and heights. Yeah, this is just for improving your text rendering, etc. This one sets image to block. Normally it's an inline element, but mostly it's used as a block. Yeah. It's just some basic ruling. This one we're gonna set. Yes. Yeah, I can find it anywhere. The modern one. There are different versions. This one from Mayor is the most common one to use, but it's actually a bit too not as great in modern HTML. I'm gonna find the link and I'll send it to you. Maybe I'll send this file also to the chat. Is that
Yeah,
do it on the
Zoom chat.
on the Slack? Can you set it on Discord?
Yes.
Or Zoom? No, won't work. So
Basically this reset CSS, if you have different CSS files and you want them to be common on everything, you use this common reset file to make the margins, the borders, and other things standardized. Because you will have, when you have bigger projects, you will have bigger CSS files as well. So every margin that you're going to write, every CSS will collapse on each other. So to make it generalized, you use CSS file, this reset CSS file.
But it's mostly for different browsers. So
yeah, different.
Firefox, for example, if you have an H1 tag, it will have some more margin on the bottom, and Chrome will have some less. And to equalize those two, we have the reset CSS that says in every browser, H1 has no margin bottom. So you can add it yourself, and you won't get the funny difference in the browsers.
Yeah. Set actually baseline from the browser. Okay. Do you have
Yes.
Okay.
I'll share ours on the resources in Discord, so you can find it there.
So let's edit the recent style view. Actually, now it's applied. You can see anything, but believe me, it's there. Go back to our design. You see, we're going to do some default styling. Because there is inheritance, we can set some default stuff, like this background here. You see it's in the header and footer. But yeah, small detail, we have a border right here. So this one has a different background color. So we set the background color to this one. So go. Whoop. On the body. Background color. We're going to use now the XDecimals. This will create a grayish color. Set the font size by default to 16 pixels. The color of the text is set to a darker gray. We put the line height of the page to 1.6. And if you go here, see this is a bit darker. Yeah, it's noticeable. You have a question? Oh, okay, that's you. Okay. Then we're going to do some content first, because it will be much easier to see. We're going to start with our header. Other. I always set a class because I mentioned before it's preferable to use class selectors, but I'll keep them the same. As you can see, we have here some white space in here. The content is not going to the far edges of the page. Therefore, we mostly use some sort of container. So I'm going to set a container. Then we have the logo, just actually just a text with in a box. So I'm going to do that. So each one. I'm going to set a link to it. This is just fun, don't go anywhere, like the future. Then we're going to do our navigation. We keep our semantic HTML in mind. Nav was for the navigation, so the screen readers will know this is the main navigation. Nope. This is best practice. As you can see, this doesn't look like a list, but actually if you remove the HTML, you want your page to just read like a text. So mostly your navigation will also be in a list. So an ordered list item, which contains a link to nowhere. This one. And this one is home. Home, our team projects and contact. I'm gonna just do some speeding up. Home, our team. Doesn't actually matter for this one. Projects and contacts. Okay. This is what we get if you don't have default styling. You see, these are all links. That's why they're blue by default. And as you can see, the ordered list. You're going to set here the lists also no padding to 0, and list style type. This way you can choose what you want. Do you want a disk circle? We're going to set this one to none. Because on web pages, it's very uncommon to set your content like this. That's it. Then the container. I'm going to set this one. Container. I'm going to set the width to auto. This is default, but I'm going to set it anyway. We're going to set a max width of 1440 pixels. This is mostly the default for modern web pages because of the a larger screen is actually. This is how you can debug HTML. So container, you can see we have the max width and the width sits here. But I think our browser window is it's only 960 large, so I set full screen. It's not doing anything yet, but that's because container is still aligned to the left. We're gonna fix this by doing setting the margin null to auto. Actually, it is this is shorthand. Actually, it says top to 0, margin bottom to 0, margin left and margin right to auto. If we now refresh our page and set it full screen, see we have created a white space here because the container is now centered over the page, over our browser. Yeah, as you can see, our content is now sticking to the sides. So we're going to set a padding left of 20 pixels and a padding right of 20 pixels. So now we have a container, the width of 1440 with a margin of 20 pixels on both sides. So actually our content will be max 1400 pixels wide. Okay, then we go further with first we're gonna create the logo. Yes. So this is just a comment for easier to find. Header. So you need the logo. Yeah, this is an H1, so it's by default a block element, so you can't get any content behind. So I'm going to set this to a display block, inline block, display inline block. This will create actually a block you can set inline, not by default. Now, if you see, if you go to the page 1, you see the content is now just as wide as the element is just as wide as the content. I set I set this off. I hover, you see it's back full width. Okay. Then logo H1. Let's see. There's a background color of hot pink. My favorite, I try everywhere. Color of white. You can choose just white or the hex. Yeah, you see the have smoothed edges with a border radius, called one. See something. Font size. EM is actually based on the font size of your parent. If you have font size of, for example, 10 pixels, and you type your parent has a font size of 10 pixels, and then the child to type 2.3 AN, it will automatically go to 23 font size. And weight 700 or volt. Margin it's already on null. Also here, based on the size of the parent font size. Let's see. We're getting there. Why isn't it white yet? Probably because it's we're setting the color on the H1, and you see a link has a default color of blue, and this one is in the H1, so it will get it's more prioritized, it's more specific to that element. So you can do logo H1 of just the A tag, where we can set the color to inherit. This will explicitly inherit the color of the parent. In this case, it will be white. Let's set the text decoration to one. Okay, as you can see, this has a different font. I used some Google fonts. If you go to fonts.google.com, you can select the fonts you want, and then you can import them in your CSS file. So for this project, I used OpenSens and Oswald, the light and the bold versions. So import this. There are better ways to do it, but it's for sake of this demo. This is set on the top. Now we can use these fonts. So if I go back to my logo, I set font family. In this case, we had the Oswald. No. Yeah, you define what? No, that's yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's my set my time already up. So I'm gonna just focus on the navigation and on my last few slides. Oswald. Like so, you see the style is different here now. This one is the fallback font family. If Oswald isn't found, they'll go to fallback font. You can set multiple font families here. Yes. We're just gonna focus on the header now. What we have to do. Yes. As said before, as you can see, we have some white space there, so we're going to do some padding. This way, we have more white space above and below our header. Now we're going to do some more modern HTML. We're going to use Flexbox to set the content. So header, container. We want to set it on the container because if we set it on the header, the container will also, in the Flex context, slow navigation, display Flex, something new. Justify content. This will set the different elements aligned to each other. So just space between. Just remember, this will take all white space and make it as big as possible between the two elements. Like so. Then we're going to center them horizontally in the center. Line items. Center. Starting to look like it. Then gonna focus on navigation. Actually, we don't have to do anything in navigation itself, I think. Where's my mouse? No, we're gonna set on the UL. Navigation UL. Oops. Also here, display Flex. This will set the items by default in a row. Then we're gonna set the some margins between the two items. So navigation LE, list item with a space. Just a margin left. You see here's some spacing left. If you set it on the right, then it will not align with the rest of the website, actually. Now this one is yeah, aligned to the right side. Okay. Yeah, you see the fonts and navigation isn't what we were expecting, so we're going to style the links. Navigation A, font weight of 800. This one we're going to set also. We're using the basic colors, so inherit normal. Because inherits from the HTML from this case, and some padding. Oh. Okay. We should remove the. We must set a font family. Actually, it's a font family for all the pages. I'm going to set this one also in the body. So the Open Sans. Let's see. Why are they still on the lines? I'm gonna remove the text decoration here. None. Voilà. We have our navigation. Also here there are some hover states, but because I'm out of time, I'll leave it right here. If you want, I'll share this this page with you guys maybe later. Then I'll go through my presentation very quickly. What's next? Further learning. Yeah, these are very good resources to learn. Let's open here. No. Learning web development. Everything goes from very beginner to notes. Yeah, but yeah, this one's not also loaded. Where is okay? Local host. Presentation is also just HTML, so you can do very funky things with it. CSS Code Academy, HTML, CSS are free ones. YouTube, you can find very good resources. One tip, don't watch the ones who said learn HTML and CSS in 5 minutes. It's not as great as and then you have Udemy, and this one is actually paid, but very good. But if there are regularly some sales, and you get it crazy cheap. Are there still any questions? I hope you've learned something. I hope I triggered you to follow the rest of the course here.